Good morning. Is Trump a fascist? When it comes to buying Intel, is that a good idea or acquiring Intel or whatever just happened? Um, I thought it was more like Marxism, that the government is getting the means of production. But ChatGPT uh, answer that for me. No, the government buying stocks in a company is not Marxism. Marxism seeks the complete abolition of private property in capitalist markets with the state under worker control, seizing and collectivizing the means of production outright rather than participating in stock markets or partial ownership. Okay, so it's not Marxism. What it does say is government purchasing shares in private firms, such as through bailouts or investments, is more characteristic of state capitalism or interventionist policies in mixed economies. China has some kind of control over some corporations, so they have some kind of corporate capitalism, but it's not complete corporate capitalism. By the way, Super Green Lawn Care YouTube channel is in the link in the description. That's my sponsor indefinitely, um, or until the money runs out. Anyway, for now, that's my sponsor, and I support Super Green Lawn Care. Doesn't cost you anything. You just watch the videos and learn what to do for your lawn, and you would be surprised how simple and easy it is to get your lawn green and weed free. I don't want to tell you the secrets, but it's very well. There's a lot of there's I could get the lawn really nice. I've learned a few tricks, and it's pretty easy to maintain. All right. So, for instance, recent U.S. government action like acquiring a stake in Intel involving injecting capital while leaving the company privately owned and operating for profit, which aligns with capitalist mechanisms rather than Marxist ideals of full public ownership without markets. In this context, likely referring to government interventions like buying stocks in companies in the recent US and Intel acquisition. Fascism describes an authoritarian. So I asked her, well, what does this have? Does fascism describe this more? And it says fascism describes an authoritarian ultra nationalist ideology that emphasizes state control over society and the economy while preserving private property rights, and corporate structures. Economically, so that sounds like what China does. They have a lot of control over there. Economically, fascism involves corporatism, where the government participates with or directs big businesses to serve national interests. I do think China does that. Often through regulations, subsidies, or direct investments without fully nationalizing industries. Yeah, a lot of countries have tried to nationalize corporations, just taking them, nationalizing them. It really doesn't work out so well because government is, not the most competent institution usually. And so having a public-private partnership would be better. Is it better just to leave the private sector alone? Well, it depends on what your goals are. I thought of this as a student of economics. I thought of the idea of, well, instead of taxing the people, what if the government owned part of corporations and they got shares and revenue from the corporations? Made sense to me. I didn't know it was an actual thing. So, well, it would take a lot of money to raise the revenue to offset $7 trillion. you know, $7 trillion, you might need about $50 trillion of assets at 10 or so percent annual revenue. So it's a lot. It's a lot of assets. However, there's a lot of moving parts with this idea of let's rethink how the government taxes citizens, because Arthur Laffer, who was an economic advisor to Reagan, wrote a book, An Inquiry into the Wealth of States. He was trying to mimic the Wealth of Nations from Adam Smith from 1776. And he looked at the income tax of states versus the states that did not implement an income tax. A lot of these states over the last 100 years have started income taxes. And he says, well, if you get better roads and you get better education system and you get all these, and it improves, it makes sense that maybe having a state income tax would be worth it. But guess what? Everything is the opposite. Every state that implemented state income tax went down in every measurable way. And I think it was New Jersey or somewhere up the Northeast has the highest income tax, or one of them, and the lowest bang for buck when it comes to government services and quality and ranking and all that stuff. Texas, Florida, no state income tax. And our states have budget surpluses, and it's counterintuitive to to think if you don't tax more, you're not going to have more money. But there's a thing called the Laffer curve in a different book that he had, where at 0% tax, you're not going to get any revenue. But at 100% tax, you're also not going to get any revenue because people are not going to work for free. So there's got to be somewhere in between that's going to have the most optimal revenue for the federal government. And I don't know if he really found, but it's somewhere around 20% or less, 15%, somewhere around there. And then you can ask the question, well, anyway, we're getting all into economics, which I love. But I think Trump is patching together several revenue sources. You've got the golden ticket, which is, the $5 million visa that is a pathway to citizenship for, very brilliant tech people that are very valuable from the world. Bring them to America. That's good for America. Now the rest of the world's going to have to compete with that to try to bring talent, because you benefit greatly if you have smart, innovative, ambitious people. Just do. Everybody does. With the tariffs, which will be about $400 billion of revenue per year. Will that replace income tax? No. Income tax is more like, I think it's $2.5 trillion of revenue. Might be more. It's most of it. Maybe $3. And having assets and just leveraging, and leasing land. There's all kinds of ways to make money for the federal government. So I think he's going to raise a lot of that money, pay down a lot of the debt, and then further reduce your taxes and try to get rid of the income tax. I think that's what he's going to try to do. Not going to be able to do it in 4 years, I don't think. But so is Trump a fascist? Well, this is not a good example of that. Fascism protects and harnesses capitalism under state oversight, as seen in historic examples like Mussolini's Italy or critiques of modern government business deals as economic fascism. Notice it didn't mention China. So I can't remember if I used ChatGPT or Grok because those are the primary ones I use. But that's interesting because I should have asked it about China, but I don't have that now. So no, I don't think Trump is a fascist for using the federal government to negotiate $10 billion out of nothing. I don't think he even bought it because I saw some of the 3 hour staff or department head meeting the other day. I saw a clip of that on Ben Shapiro's show, and he's like, with the phone call, he just got 10% of Intel. I had something to do with some government interaction. So, and he wants to do that more with what is that app? TikTok. Making a deal with China to have the American version of TikTok separated and under an American company control. But if he does that, then he wants half of the value of TikTok, which I think it claimed was like $500 billion or something like that. That seems a little high. Is TikTok worth $1 trillion? Maybe. I doubt it. All right. Well, this was fun. Nobody showed up. It's really early. It's like 4:45 a.m. right now. And I woke up early and I'm getting to work. I'm going to work on this other Hebrew thing here. I got another video to pre-record and upload. And yeah, I got some time left. Have a good one. Subscribe, like this video, especially made it to the end, and share it. This video might be interesting to people or not. So we'll talk to you later. Bye. And by the way, that came on as soon as I went on live. I don't know if you could hear my AC unit. And now that I'm about to get off 12 minutes later, it turns off. So hopefully it didn't interfere with that. I just decided I'm not going to mess with it and just go with it anyway.